Excuse me, what the actual fuck are you doing in my house?
I'm gonna be real here. I have no idea how to start this video. When I was writing it, I didn't know where to go because the film itself has no structure. So how's this video gonna have structure? You know? This movie's such a mess and the ego behind it is probably even messier. I feel like I wouldn't pay to watch this movie. You'd have to pay me to watch this movie again. And I rewatched it for the video, so like, you're welcome. It is fair to say this video will have spoilers to the movie, so if you care about the movie and want to watch it, which I'd recommend against, click off the video because, you know, like, I'm gonna be talking about spoilers and whatnot, and if you don't want spoilers, you don't gotta get them. Men is more of a collection of ideas than an actual film, and I know what you're thinking, Joe, all movies are collections of ideas, and some of the most cryptic of those movies are kind of good, which yeah, I agree. Most of Garland's filmography is quite cryptic, and I think that lends itself well to his films. You don't really have to get a specific interpretation of the film, you can kind of apply your own interpretation. And there are just really good cryptic movies, even disregarding Garland's filmography. There's even a really great movie, even more cryptic than this, also starring Jessie Buckley on the topic of misogyny. I'm Thinking of Ending Things, which is directed and written by Charlie Kaufman, who's, you know, better than Alex Garland. Now, throughout this video, I will be comparing Men to I'm Thinking of Ending Things and other movies that are similar to Men, but I'm not gonna just, you know, show movies that I think are better than Men and not actually give it any criticism. But I do think it's fair to say it's odd to cast Jessie Buckley in the main role of your film about misogyny. Your cryptic, you know, fantastical film about misogyny that's elevated horror when a film exactly like that came out like 2 years ago and is considered very good, kind of setting yourself up for failure. But I don't know, it just makes the comparison even more embarrassing to me. Keeping things weird and hard to figure out is fine. I expected it from a movie like this. But the thing about Men is it doesn't really have an ending. It barely has a beginning. It doesn't really have a story. It just sort of throws you face first into it. I couldn't tell you where the first act of this ends and the second act begins. It's like one long act and then boom, third act suddenly. I guess I should begin on the few things that I did like about the film. I think if I had to praise this film for one thing, it would be its sound and look. It is really beautiful. There's these constant sound effects and music that just make the film so beautiful to hear and watch. And it's just, it feels more like it just doesn't feel like a horror movie, which I think Garland was going for, but oftentimes it can be a downside. That being said, it's still a beautiful film, so I would like to give props to it for that. Another really good highlight is the acting. Jessie Buckley's like one of my favorite actresses right now, and I probably really only watched the movie for her, and yeah, she's really good in it.
Yourself, don't bother, I don't give a fuck! It'll make no difference because whatever you say, whatever you do, you will never, ever see me again. Now get the fuck out!
And so is Rory Kinnear. Kinnear plays a lot of roles in this movie, and he plays some better than others, but overall, he gives a pretty good performance throughout.
Mrs. Marlowe?
Yeah, no. No, it isn't. I haven't changed it yet. The missus.
Oh. Well done, Jeffrey.
I wish there was more differentiation between his characters, which is something I'll get into later. The other big actor in this film would be Papa Isidu. Sorry if I'm saying that wrong. He's in a few scenes. I don't really get why he's the only man not played by Rory Kinnear. He's a good actor, and it's cool that he's in the movie because he gives a really good performance and does his best with the writing, as does everybody in the film.
No, James, just please.
Stop saying please, Harper! Stop pleading! I am pleading! I am!
This film has maybe 5 actors throughout, and they all do a really spectacular job, so that's one of the better things about it, of course. I like that Buckley keeps her Irish accent for this movie. That's pretty cool, but then again, I don't really get it because there's a Scottish actress in this movie that plays an American for some reason, and it's implied that she lives in London, so like, I don't get the logic. Wouldn't more Scottish people live in London than Americans? I don't know. It's a tiny thing, but it's kind of dumb, and I feel like in a movie that's supposed to be some masterpiece, you should probably think about stuff like that. Then again, that was just a nitpick, so it's not that big of a deal. I appreciate the computer-generated imagery is used for horror in this. There's been this trend lately of de-aging, which I assume Garland saw everybody saying this looked creepy and decided, oh, hey, maybe I should do something with that in this movie. Which I don't find it creepy in this movie. I do appreciate that he is trying to use this, you know, really weird technology that nobody really likes and using it for an actual thematic, or maybe not even a thematic reason, but a purpose, you know, other than, whoa, this actor looks like they did 30 years ago, you know? So I do appreciate that. And finally, I really like the scenes that are more dramatic than horror focused. I think Garland is a better writer when it comes to drama than anything else. That being said, some of the writing is still incredibly on the nose and really just not enjoyable to watch.
And would be fucking unbearable. That is the last thing I would ever want.
It's not the last thing, because you want to divorce me.
But that's so...
You want to divorce me more than you want to keep me alive. How is my life? What's so little to you?
These actors are doing their best to try to save these scripts, but sometimes bad direction in scripts just plummet the film in a way that actors cannot save it. And I think that's always been a problem with Garland's films, the fact that he just relies on actors to try to elevate his films in some way, when in reality you should be writing a script that is just as good as the actor's performance will be, just from a, you know, respect level if anything else. And yeah, I think that's it for the stuff that I like in this movie. Genuinely, I'm looking for things in this movie to pick out that I enjoyed, and that's pretty much it. Anyways, on to the garbage. So the movie begins with Buckley watching her husband fall off the roof. I'll admit, on paper, this is kind of a good intro into a film. It's surprising, it's interesting, but it's like a 30-second scene, and then we get an entire minute of Jessie Buckley just kind of driving, and it feels like Ford, the company, was like, hey, Mr. Garland, we put a minute of a Ford car driving around, we'll give you some money. Like, why is she smiling here? She's just driving, and her husband just died. That's what I do when my husband just died. I drive around with a smile on my face. So then Buckley like shows up to her little vacation spot and eats this apple, and it's like, whoa dude, like Eve in the Adam and Eve Bible story. Whoa, what crazy imagery. This is the first sign of a larger problem with this film. There's this constant religious imagery that doesn't really have a place. If you don't know, the Green Man is this European mythological character that some might perceive to be a religious character, and really he isn't even European, he's throughout the world. It's a symbol of rebirth, and it's like a really peaceful thing, so it's weird to see it used for horror. I get that that might have been the intention, but it comes off as, you know, indifferent at best and offensive at worst. Soon after Buckley eats the apple, she meets the first of many of Rory Kinnear's characters in this film. This highlights another big problem with the movie. There are so many scenes in this movie that just have this baseline template that is incredibly obvious. Jessie Buckley walks around, she meets some man, played by Rory Kinnear of course. The man says a weird thing, and Buckley says something like, "Fuck off," and then leaves.
The questions you ask.
Fuck off!
That's like 70% of this movie, and I'm not even exaggerating remotely. It is really weird to me that this movie has so many scenes that just feel copy and pasted because they're so similar. So then we get the first of many flashbacks in this movie that highlight sort of the relationship that Buckley and her husband had. Basically, Buckley's like, I'm gonna divorce you, and then the guy's like, if you do that, I'll kill myself. And then she's like, you're fucking weird. I think these are some of the stronger scenes in the movies, but they still feel cliche. There's only so much an actor can do to lift up your script. In one of the later flashbacks, there's this moment where Buckley's character is texting her friend. She doesn't have a place to talk, so she's texting somebody else. Then her husband takes away her phone and hits her, which I think that's one of the better scenes in the movie because I think that's like something that is very real. A lot of women have experienced a violation of privacy followed by physical abuse and then, you know, rightfully being very angry with their husband. So I will give that props because I feel like it's one of the only really effective scenes in the movie. So after that, Buckley's like, hey, I'm gonna go for a walk in the woods because I'm on vacation. It's like maybe like an 8-minute scene. And I think this scene highlights another big problem with the film. It's really relaxing. And at first, the scene is supposed to be relaxing. She's walking in the woods, experiencing nature, and it's a really beautiful scene. Then she gets to a tunnel, she sings in it for a little while, and then she sees a man coming towards her. So what does she do? She quickly walks away, doesn't run, just like a kind of a fast walk. So she does that for a little while, stops in front of another blocked off sort of tunnel thing, stands there for a little while, and then decides, hey, I'm gonna walk up here to try to get away. It's like, okay, you could have been out of that situation like 30 seconds ago. And then you can maybe assume she's like a few hundred feet away from the tunnel. She decides to stop, stand, and take a picture. And then, what a surprise, she sees the guy there. Like, what? How do you expect me to take your movie seriously when you have a character who sees this scary ass man, walks away, stops and stands, walks a little more, and then takes a picture? Nobody would do that. This isn't Scary Movie. This is trying to be some elevated, you know, smart horror movie. So why is it doing stuff like this? You tell me whether you feel like alerted by this scene and you think the main character is in danger. Yeah, it doesn't look like it, does it? It looks like she's having fun in the forest. And then there's another big weird thing. There's so much nudity in this film used as horror. Now, I'm not saying that nudity or sexuality cannot be used as horror. It certainly can, and it has worked with certain films. In fact, with Garland's own Ex Machina, there's a lot of nudity that makes sense. But the thing with using nudity as horror is that you have to have extra context within the scene. You can't just show me a guy standing with his dick out and have me be like, oh, I'm so fucking scared. Because that's not scary, you know, it's just a naked guy. On top of this, there's a lot of vaginal and sexual imagery in this movie that doesn't amount to anything more than, whoa guys, she's going to a hole. A vagina is a hole, isn't that crazy? Isn't that, whoa, what does that mean? You know? You have to have some actual fucking meaning in your film. You can't just throw something that looks like a vagina or is a vagina or whatever on screen and expect me to be like, whoa, that's so scary, or whoa, that has so much meaning. It has to actually have meaning for me to say this, you know, as a viewer. So you can't just fucking throw shit at the wall, see if it sticks based on what the fuck ever and expect me to like it, you know? Midsommar is a film that I also have a lot of problems with, but I will say when it does quiet horror, it understands what you have to do to make a scene scary. Min does this quiet horror that just doesn't work half the time. It feels like Garland's just throwing something at the wall, like I said earlier, and seeing if it sticks, which isn't a good thing as a director. You do that when you're watching the first cut of your movie, not when the final cut is out in theaters. After this big scary scene, there's a slower scene where Buckley's character, despite having said earlier that she does not know how to play piano, plays piano. She does it quite well, actually.
Still Snoop Dogg and D.I.
This is the only insight to Buckley's character being something more than I'm a woman who is treated like shit. And I get that what Garland was trying to do here was have a default slate that women could attach themselves to. But, you know, when you make a specific character, people can attach themselves to that too. You don't have to make this bland, boring character for them to be relatable. You know, that's just not how it works. You can relate to a rock if you want to.
For the same reason, I can pick up this pencil, tell you its name is Steve, and go like this. Oh. And part of you dies. Just a little bit on the inside. Because people can connect with anything.
In fact, I'd say none of the characters in this movie really have any big character besides I am an awful man, or Buckley's I am a woman who is being shit on by these awful men. You know, it's just horror for the sake of horror. She goes to like her computer and does some business stuff. It feels like this movie was sponsored by Apple. She has like an iMac Air or whatever you call it, I don't know. She has AirPod Pros. She has an iPhone. Anyways, the naked guy from earlier walks around in the background of the scene, and it looks like a Looney Tunes gag. I mean, this isn't scary, you know? This is goofy as shit. So after this, she goes to the church, and I'm not sure if this was intended, but Buckley looks up in the scene and sees these religious figures on the stained glass, and they are all men. So I think that's maybe Alex trying to say like, hey, how come women can't be priests? Which is something, I guess, you know. It's there at least, and that's something, so I'll give it to him, I guess. So then she exits the church. She sees a boy wearing a woman's mask. So I don't know if this was intentional, but it feels weird. This boy's wearing a woman's mask, and I have to imagine it's Garland being like, oi, why are all these men trying to pretend to be women? And yeah, I don't know. Like, it's really weird to make this movie that's obviously trying to be like a woke, progressive movie, and then make something that is kind of transphobic. And I would think I'm looking too hard into it, but considering the final scene that I'll talk about later, it doesn't seem that insane to imply that this is transphobic. Anyway, yeah, the boy removes his mask, and there's some computer generated imagery to make him look de-aged, Kinnear, playing the boy, which I think is really cool, even though it doesn't really work. As I said earlier, it's something though, you know? It's something. So he's like, hey, play with me, and Buckley's like, no, I'm good. And then he's like, fuck you.
Stupid bitch.
And that's like half of this movie, like I said earlier. Then she sits down with the priest, and the priest is like, hey, you're the reason your husband killed himself. And she's like, fuck you, and walks off. This movie doesn't have any fucking stakes. Most of it is just Buckley walking around, seeing some bullshit, and then being like, that's bullshit, and then walking away. It's like, yeah, we know that's bullshit. What are you, like, what a mess. I will say what I do like about this scene is you have a genuine dramatic moment here earlier on where this movie isn't trying to be a horror movie, it's trying to be a drama for a minute. And that's when the movie is at its best. Even if it's not incredible, it still feels like an actual movie when it's more focused on drama rather than pure horror.
It feels more like...
Haunted.
Yeah.
It feels like these characters are actually talking to each other, and it feels like that means something for a moment. After this, we get a deer scene that means literally nothing. Deer and horror have been used for, you know, these very cliche scenes for so long, and I think it's kind of a cliche that gets made fun of a lot, rightfully so. And it's literally just like hammer going into a deer eye socket, pulling out, and the deer's decayed a little bit. Guess what movie does that subject better?
But yeah, he finally managed to move one and discovered its entire underside was filled with maggots. Both pigs were being eaten alive.
And then after this, we get Buckley walking into a bar and talking to Kinnear's landlord character. And here we get to see that Kinnear plays literally everybody to a bigger extent. But she's talking to Kinnear, and Kinnear's trying to kind of mean like this. You know, she obviously doesn't want to talk, and he's pushing her, which is I think it's a common thing with men. So I get what he was going for here.
Been for a walk yet? The old railway line. You can stand there and imagine the steam.
Then you have this moment where, you know, this police officer's like, hey, we caught the guy who was talking to you. And he's like, oh, well, when the cat's away. And Buckley's like, fuck you.
When the cat's away?
No.
And it's like, that was so obviously like a moment for the trailers, and like, it's like trying to be this iconic moment, and it's like, fuck you, you know? That's not how a movie works. In addition to this, the landlord makes the statement here that the stalker could have been
Some jippo, I dare say.
which is a slur for Romani people. I guess Garland is trying to imply here that even the people that appear the nicest can have these really fucked up beliefs, which I definitely appreciate this as a concept. There have been people in my life who I thought were cool people, and then they say the most insane shit you've ever heard. The thing is though, Buckley's character doesn't even comment on it. Also, considering the fact that the only minority in this film is a black man who plays a character who abuses his wife, which is a common stereotype against black men, that's certainly something. Like, you're really so progressive continuing stereotypes. Please say, hey, we couldn't catch this guy, and it feels like Garland is sort of trying to comment on the fact that police officers oftentimes don't help women in these situations. And then when Buckley leaves the scene, what do you think she says? Wow. Just like all the other scenes. So I had this whole 8-minute bit recorded about the third act where I just went in detail about everything that happened, but this is where the movie really just becomes completely incomprehensible. So let's just do a quick lightning round. Buckley talks to her friend on the phone, says she needs to get out. The friend points to an axe behind her to tell the audience that there is an axe when she could have just picked up the axe. She doesn't even use the axe, by the way. A guy shows up, blows dust in her face, another guy shows up, another guy shows up, then another guy shows up. There's a little bit of body horror with a hand. Oh my god, it looks like a vagina. How crazy is that? And now we get to the really gross shit. Not gross physically, but gross morally. Remember the priest guy from earlier? He shows up and rapes the main character. And what is the point? I have no idea. It's just kind of there. Look, I'm not trying to infantilize Buckley or anything. She's an actress and a really, really good one at that. But there has to be a degree of some kind of pain. Especially as a woman, when you act out getting raped, getting physically, mentally, and emotionally abused, and all the other things her character goes through in this film. I don't know anything for a fact, but I can't imagine this is a fun day on set for her or anybody. I'm not saying you can't depict these things. Some of my favorite movies have depictions of these really awful events, but the difference is, in these other movies they have something to say about them. In Lars von Trier's Dogville, there are no walls to the set. The entire thing is filmed on what is essentially a soundstage. So when the character of Grace is raped, the absence of walls represents the tendency in the world to ignore women's suffering. What does Men do with its commentary? Not really anything. Most of Men is just stating the obvious. Any woman on this earth could tell you that women getting raped, getting abused, and just overall getting treated like shit is something that exists. If you're going to make an entire movie on the subject of misogyny, you should probably say something more than what is already known. It all brings up this bigger issue. Is it okay to put your actors through this when the film itself is so meaningless? You as a writer have nothing new to say, but you're still having your actors act out literal rape? It almost feels like this movie wasn't made for women in mind, but it was made for men who want to feel bad about misogyny and the patriarchy or whatever. There was this tweet I saw a while ago where this guy was talking about how his normie girlfriend didn't understand men, and as my mutual Max pointed out, that is quite accurate to the entire film's messaging. This film wants you to congratulate Garland for acknowledging that women have a hard time, and I don't think he should be congratulated for doing the bare minimum. I'm sorry, it just isn't good enough, especially when there are movies about this topic that have been made by men that are far superior, starring Buckley even. So I just don't understand why we should thank Garland for doing the bare minimum and making this, like, I don't, like, you've made a piece of shit. Like, what do you want me to do? You want me to fucking give you a little laugh? Fuck you. The movie's really running out of energy at this point, and it needs this big climactic thing to save it. So I think Garland's solution to this was to just go batshit crazy in the last 20 minutes. So after this, you have her walking out, and then she sees this man. He's got a big old belly, and then he squats over, and a vagina comes out, and he has a little baby. And that's meant to be scary, because pregnant men are scary for some reason. Garland's trying to use this imagery as this like alien thing that's so hard to understand that it's like inherently spooky. Men with vaginas and pregnant men. People like that exist in the real world. There are probably a countless number of pregnant men on this planet, and definitely, transgender men. I mean, Jesus Christ. You have a transgender actor who just came out a year or two ago. He's spoken about his difficulties with his body, and And then you're gonna make a horror movie about how men with vaginas are scary in the year 2022 when trans people are going through so much, and, you know, arguably trans people are under attack now more than ever. So it's insane to me that he thought, oh, me making this movie where a man has a vagina and it's scary, yeah, that's what I want to do. I'm really woke for that. So then Buckley drives away, and then the fucking landlord just stands in the middle of the road for some reason. She runs him over, stands up, takes her out of his car, and then, like, basically hurts her. Which it's like, yeah, again, why are you putting your actors through this? The landlord character was an actual character. He said some racist shit, you know, and he said some misogynistic shit, but he was an actual character. He's probably one of the better characters in this film. And his entire character is just given up on to be this sort of cartoon horror character that just starts abusing Buckley's character for no reason other than, oh, I'm a man. This film has no logic in the way it flows. It just sort of throws shit at you, and you're supposed to be like, whoa, what does it mean? This movie must be good because I don't understand it. And it's like, I think I know what he's trying to do in a lot of these scenes, and it doesn't make the movie any fucking better. This movie sucks, you know? Also, the landlord guy is just screaming in this scene, which I find kind of funny. The last 20 minutes of this movie is basically just Jessie Buckley looking at things. She doesn't even comment anymore. She's just looking at things. So then the final scene is her husband coming out and being like, hey, why do you hate me? And she's like, I don't know. And then the fucking movie ends. It's literally the movie. I wish I was making this up, you know? I think I'm gonna get some people in the replies of this video saying, like, I don't get this movie. Which, yeah, it's like, if I don't get any part of this movie, it's because there's nothing to get. It's just a bunch of bullshit thrown on the screen, and Alex Garland wants you to praise it because it's like high art or something. It's the cinematic equivalent of the guy selling his literal shit in cans and calling it art. And that's the problem, right? This entire fucking movie just was like Garland saying, whoa, look at me, look at these men, they suck, but not me. I'm one of the good ones. Look at me, I'm so woke. Here's a rape scene, and a physical abuse scene, and a mental abuse scene, and an emotional abuse scene. Look at me, I'm doing such great things for women. Look at these vaginas. Whoa, here's religious imagery that makes no sense. And then I'm gonna make out men with vaginas and pregnant men to be scary at a time when trans people are under attack more than ever. And we're gonna have a little boy wearing a woman's mask. That's clearly not transphobic. Look at me, I'm so fucking woke. Fuck you, dude. Fuck you. Fuck this stupid fucking movie. I'm so fucking tired of thinking about it, and it just fucking kills me. I don't ever want to think about it again after this video. Fuck you. No! Yeah, I'm done. There's nothing else to say about the movie. It's really awful. I have a Twitter if you want to follow me there, and if you like the video and subscribe to my channel, that would really help me out a lot, and I'd appreciate it. Now I never want to think about this movie again. Goodbye.